Alright guys, let's learn React.js with a plan because like Avengers we always have a plan, don't we? Let's see. So start with the basics. HTML, CSS, JavaScript, TypeScript. These are all the things that you need to know for sure because because without these concepts you cannot even start playing or using React.js application. So HTML, start with learning basic tags like image tag, div, what is the difference between div and span. Use all the HTML tags. Move on to CSS. Use all kind of selectors on the CSS in the CSS like flexbox. Play with flexbox. Use CSS grid. Start start and learn about preprocessors. Like why are preprocessors necessary? What why cannot you just write plain CSS? Then learn about CSS design patterns like atomic design pattern or BEM method. JavaScript. Move on to learning JavaScript. You should know fundamentals of JavaScript because React framework is nothing but JavaScript at the end of the day. So you need to know JavaScript like variables, constants. What are the new ES6 features? What are conditional operators? How do you loop between an array and a list? What are closures? What are the design patterns in JavaScript? You should also know asynchronous programming. So what are the promises? What is async and await? How to use those features? And also like TypeScript. Don't just learn JavaScript because the new norm is using TypeScript because it has all the goodies. It's basically a superset of JavaScript essentially. So it has all the goodies of JavaScript and plus a lot more. So what are types and why are types important in JavaScript? Then you can start with learning the React basics, like what are the components. Like start with building a React application using the create React app uh, CLI tool, and learn what are the basics of React.js. So like components, what is component based programming, why are components really useful. Then start learning about state and props. What are component states, what are component props, how do you communicate between a child and a parent. So how do you use props to your advantage? Then what are functional components? Like previously we had class-based components, those were the norms, but now we are moving towards having functional components. So what are functional components? Why are they so useful? Then sorry, this should be React Advanced, but yeah, then you can move on to the React Advanced concepts like higher order components, like design patterns of React.js. Then hooks, like what are the pre-existing hooks that you can uh, that you can reuse, like the use effect or the use state or the use context. Like what is a context? How do you use context to share state between different parts of application, your React application, instead of like passing the state or props down to every single component. You don't need to do that. Why do you need why the or how you could use context for that purpose? Then you can move on to the GraphQL because if you don't have API, if you don't have the backend of your application, your React app is almost useless. So how do you use GraphQL to create APIs? How do you like write query based APIs? How you could write mutation based APIs? So basically, previously we had post or gate post, and the old good CRUD operations were like get, post, put, delete. How has that changed? And now we only have queries and mutations, these two classes of APIs. How do you write fragments and reuse those fragments between to write your queries and mutations? Then what is Apollo? Why is Apollo so important and so uh, trending right now. Basically, it's a GraphQL framework that you could use. So it has a Apollo client and it has Apollo server. And finally, don't just learn stuff, because at the end of the day you need to create stuff that you can brag about, right? So that is what is gonna get you out and get you in front of your dream job or employer, or even if you're doing freelancing, that is what is basically uh, tell your client that okay, I can trust this person because he has built so many applications and he has learned so many different things. So create stuff, keep building things daily. So build your portfolio, get noticed. And yeah, I mean, if you don't have if you are struggling to know like what kind of applications you can build, my ebook that I recently created has like 30 plus project ideas that you could use, and it also has use cases built into that. So basically, it gives you a starting point to what actually to build. How do you think about, so if given a idea like build an application for this, how do you even start building an application if you don't know what are the use cases or what are the features? That is exactly what my book tells you about, like all the use cases that you need to build to create a complete application that is usable by your end user. So go out and just build a lot of applications. And finally, have a lot of fun, because that is what we, we're planning to do essentially, right? Why do you learn application? Why do you learn programming? Just have fun with programming, stay up all night and uh, code and fix your bugs. Thank you.